I'd like to call order the meeting of the Bellbrook City Council, August the 8th, 2016. We could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jamie, if you want to do the roll call.
Mr. Edwards?
Here.
Mr. Greenwood?
Here.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Here.
Mrs. Seeger-Lawson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Here.
And Mayor Baird's absent tonight.
Again, tonight Mayor Baird is home under the weather. We wish a speedy recovery for him, and I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting. The first thing on the agenda is any member of council.
Excuse.
No, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I would move to excuse Bob.
I'll second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Schweller to excuse Mayor Baird, seconded by Mr. Edwards. Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger-Lawson?
Yes.
Okay. Does any member of council have any corrections or additions to the regular city council meetings of the last meeting?
None.
Okay, I would move that we accept those minutes as submitted. Tonight, we do have a special guest, Marty Hyde from Congressman Turner's office, and I presume you'd like to come up and speak with us?
Yes, please. Thank you. For the record, Marty Heidi with Congressman Mike Turner's office, and I'm Greene County Outreach. And I like to come here about once a year or so and kind of talk about updates at the federal level. And tonight I want to talk about two things. One is passports. And 10 years ago, if you'll recall, there was a law that went into effect that you had to have a passport to go to Mexico and Canada. So that was 10 years ago. So right now, everybody's renewing their passport. They've issued 5 million new passports already this year, the National Passport Center with the Department of State. So if you look on the website and see that processing takes about 4 to 6 weeks, you want to bump that up to about 6 to 8 weeks. Congressman Turner got a communication from the Department of State saying that there were going to be delays in issuing passports. So call our office if you need one quickly. We can have it sent to the Congressional Liaison Office, and it takes about 10 days to 2 weeks. So I'm the passport person in the office, so you can contact me in Congressman Turner's Dayton District Office. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is the heroin epidemic. I passed out kind of a list of all of the current legislation that's out there. The CARA Act was just signed into law by President Obama on the 22nd of July. And there's a legislation introduced by Congressman Turner called the TREAT Act, and it is listed here too. This was a result of Congressman Turner visiting the Greene County Detention Center and seeing a rehabilitation unit there going through sort of a process, and it being brought to his attention that once they get incarcerated, their Medicaid benefits are cut off. And so the local sheriff's office has to really foot that cost. And this doesn't cost taxpayers anymore, it just continues the Medicaid services to them while they're incarcerated. And so he introduced the legislation. It hasn't passed yet, but he's getting a lot of support for it. But this is just some of the legislation that's out there. The reason I'm here tonight is to kind of point out to all of you that as members of the community, as you're out and about, it's a good idea to talk about this epidemic. Ask questions, say, did you know, or have you heard? Because this is not just a urban issue, this is all over the district and the country. Dayton, Ohio in 2014 was the highest deaths, on heroin-related deaths in the country. And in 2015, it was number 2, and it's on track to be number 1 again in 2016. And that's in the country, that's not the state. So it's a very serious issue. They had something on the news just this weekend that they had a big bust of this. But I just wanted you as community members to know some of the things that are going on, some of the community organizations and kids, children, teens, all need to know that this is not an experimental recreational drug. This is one time and that's it. You're hooked. So that's why I'm here tonight, to kind of give you that information. Anybody have any questions?
Marty, thanks for the update, and I can speak from personal experience that the passport renewal option does work well. I think I got mine back in about 3 or 4 days, and
Good.
this past summer, my fiance went through you, and she got hers back in about 4 days, so it worked out really well. So
Good.
if you need a passport renewal in short order, she's the one to go to.
Yeah. My number is in Congressman Turner's office, 937-225-2843.
I just got a new passport, and I paid a little extra money
Mhm.
for the,
The
I
expedite
think it
fee.
only took about 2.5 weeks.
Good,
And
good.
I mean,
You can go through the post office and they'll expedite it they go to Philadelphia and it takes about 2 weeks. But if you need it in less time, we go through New Hampshire. Our congressional unit is in New Hampshire and that's where we send it and they do it in about a week to 10 days.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's a trip to Detroit to get it issued in on
That's
the
24
spot.
hours if you do that right.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
correct.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks for coming out.
Marty, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Marty.
Next on the agenda is public hearings. Ordinance number 2016-8.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ordinance number 2016-8, an ordinance granting an easement to the State of Ohio Department of Transportation for improvements to the State Route 725 road embankment along Sackett Ranch Park. Whereas the City of Bellbrook owns certain parcels of land adjacent to State Route 725, and whereas the State of Ohio Department of Transportation has initiated a project to protect the State Route 725 roadway embankment from erosion created by Sugar Creek, and whereas the State of Ohio Department of Transportation requires an easement of .635 acres to complete this project, and whereas the State of Ohio Department of Transportation has offered to pay the City of Bellbrook $6,350 for this easement, now therefore the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains Section 1, the City of Bellbrook grants the easement attached hereto to the State of Ohio Department of Transportation. Section 2, that the city manager is hereby authorized to execute the attached easement and such other related documents as may be required. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law.
Yes, as we've talked about a couple times here, this is legislation authorizing the execution of an easement with ODOT. If you look here on the screen, this is the main entrance to Sackett Wright Park here. This area outlined in green is the area, that .635 acres that will be granted an easement. They're going to be, this is all underground stormwater. They're going to be replacing that tile. They see a lot of erosion as the little Sugar Creek comes along here when it rains a lot, and it's actually works against the roadway here. So they're trying to stabilize that so that by doing this, they're hoping that they can maintain the roadway. They're not really doing any improvements to the roadway there, just trying to keep it from falling off any more than it already has. So like I said, we've talked about this a couple times, but this will authorize me to sign an easement to ODOT, and then they can schedule their project thereafter.
Mark, right now, that's sort of like, I think, a creek-like area. I mean, there's like bushes and trees right there, if I'm thinking of that correctly.
Yeah, there are trees on the backside here,
Okay.
yes.
Is it still gonna be open, or is that gonna be more, they're gonna take the trees down and put
Um,
them there, or what? I'm just trying to picture what it's gonna be like.
let me see if they, so this is, there is a tree line that you can see outlined in here. You might not be able to see it too well, but it's outlined as woods in here. So they are going to be, I don't know if they're going to be doing it completely enclosed along there or if it's still going to be open ditch, but they're going to, they're certainly, it's going to be enclosed underneath the driveways there, obviously. But then they're going to have to clear out probably some of those trees, some of that woods along there.
And then maybe just put in a bottom tile or something?
Yeah, just something to allow it to flow better and to not damage the roadway there. This, and we've had from this point here at this end, it stays on that side of the road, on the park side of the road for a while, and then right about Lower Bellbrook, it crosses over, and then the ditch runs along the driving range there. And they have recently, per our request, contingent upon this, cleaned all that out, because that goes back by Dollar General, and because that was backing up, it was actually backing up water towards Ryder Court, things back in there. And it was actually affecting us because the ditch wasn't draining properly. So, but they have done a lot of that work that we requested to clean that out. And this will also help it too. But you gotta get the water to there.
How is that going to affect the entryway? Because it looks like it goes right across the entryway,
It's going to, but it's going to be piped underneath there.
piped underneath.
Yeah, so it will impact it, but that's what they are actually compensating, in addition to what they're paying for this land easement, they're compensating the park district for that entranceway, for the sign, for the sod. There's a little raised planting bed there. There's almost another $6,000 that the park district is getting to restore that. And what they've said, I mean, those features, they're going to restore the driveways, of course, and they're going to put the sod back down. But what the park district has said, they will use that money. They've had to take down a lot of trees in that area because of the emerald ash borer, that whatever money they get from the proceeds of this, they're going to reinvest in that area of the park. This is a sort of a strange area because the land is owned by the city, but the park district maintains it. So they sometimes have difficulty spending park district money on land that they don't own, but in this case, they are going to reinvest that money in the park.
Do you know when they're gonna start that or anything?
No, I don't. Obviously, they've got to get all the paperwork
Right.
in place first, so I don't know that they'll be able to, I won't be able to sign this easement until 30 days. That's when this ordinance would take effect, so that puts us early September. So I doubt that it'll happen this year, but it may be a wintertime project that they can get a contractor in there to do.
Okay.
Mark, are they the ones that cleaned out in front of Ryder Court there? The ditches?
Along the driving range?
No, on up into Ryder Court?
No.
Oh, they didn't?
No, that would have been us.
Okay.
Yeah, anything from the corner of Washington Mill and 725, where back behind Dollar General to Ryder Court, that's all, we maintain all that. That's all our
Okay.
responsibility. So if there was anything cleaned out, it would have been us that did
Okay.
that.
I noticed they'd done somebody done something.
Yeah, we tend to do that. We clean it out occasionally. That's part of our stormwater program.
Okay.
Mark, that's been an ongoing point of emphasis, that water down there in that area on both sides of the road. Are we finally to the end of that now? We're getting close to the end of it. It seems like every time we turn around, we got water backing up, standing water, and more problems, and I'm hoping that this maybe brings us to a little closure on it.
I don't know that we'll ever really have closure just because of the floodplain area and the, where, it's not on this map, but where the Sugar Creek makes that sharp turn, and it just, I think we're going to always have some of that. And we haven't had, knock on wood, we haven't had flooding in the park, serious flooding. I think it's only been one since I've been here, but
been
I
a
know
lot less,
it's been a lot
absolutely.
less, and obviously with the sanitary lift station gone, that has changed some of the dynamics there too. But
Yeah.
I think we'll always have some issues. It's just, this is trying to keep the road in place when those issues happen.
Good. Any more comments? Given this is a public hearing, would anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of or against ordinance 2016-8? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing to be closed. We have a motion for ordinance 2016-8.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2016-8.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Edwards to adopt ordinance number 2016-8, an ordinance granting an easement to the State of Ohio Department of Transportation for improvements to the State Route 725 road embankment along Sackett-Wright Park, seconded by Mr. Greenwood. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes,
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. Next on the agenda is ordinance 2016-10. Mrs. Middlestetter.
yes, thank you, Mr. Schweller. Ordinance number 2016-10, an ordinance amending ordinance 2015-16 to adjust the City of Bellbrook appropriations to reflect additional costs in some line items and reduced costs in other line items. Whereas the City of Bellbrook adopted the 2016 annual budget based on the best information available at the time, and whereas additional costs have or will occur in some line items, and reduced costs are projected in other line items, which requires the amendment of various appropriation levels. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains Section 1, that the 2016 appropriation levels in several of the funds listed below be amended as follows. And there's a detailed listing with the grand total of all funds. Personal services, $4,500. Additional other expenses, $48,080 negative, and supplemental appropriations, negative $43,580. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law.
Yes, periodically through the year, we'll review our appropriations and make amendments as necessary. Here, the net effect is a decrease in appropriations of just under $44,000. The majority of that comes from the Capital Improvement Fund reductions, where we've had projects that have been completed under budget or maybe delayed potentially, if that were the case. And then there's other line items throughout the budget that have been increased or decreased as necessary throughout the year. So this is just a routine adjustment that we'll make. We'll probably do at least one more prior to the end of the year.
Thank you.
Mark, at this time, we've got a lot of our capital expenditures have already been made, I think. I mean, we bought the vehicles, the water tower and all that kind of stuff, so we're kind of seeing the end of that
Yes.
cycle.
Yes, the two, the three projects that have been either completed or still to go. The water tower just finished. The annual paving just finished, so we haven't seen final invoices on those yet. And then we have the Plantation Trail project, which is underway. The bid came in underward, but they haven't started the work yet.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in council have any comments on ordinance 2016-10? Again, this is a public hearing. Would anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of or against ordinance 2016-10? If so, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I declare the public hearing to be closed. We have a motion for ordinance 2016-10.
Yes, I move that we approve ordinance 2016-10.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Middlestetter to adopt ordinance number 2016-10, and ordinance amending ordinance 2015-16 to adjust the City of Bellbrook appropriations to reflect additional cost in some line items and reduced cost in other line items, seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. That's the end of our public hearing on ordinances. We have no introductions, but we do have about 6 resolutions to go through this evening. The first being Resolution 2016-W. Mrs. Sigurd Lawson.
Resolution number 2016-W, a resolution approving the replat of lots 18, 19, 20, and 21 into lots 18A, 19A, 20A, and 21A, Highview Terrace subdivision, section 2. Whereas the Ohio Revised Code requires a replat for changes of lot lines or easements in a platted subdivision, and whereas the City of Bellbrook's consulting engineer and the Bellbrook Planning Board have recommended approval of a replat of lots 18, 19, 20, and 21 into lots 18A, 19A, 20A, and 21A, Highview Terrace subdivision, section 2, and whereas the City of Bellbrook's subdivision regulations stipulate that changes to a recorded plat shall be approved by action of the Bellbrook City Council. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, section 1, that the replat of lots 18, 19, 20, and 21 into lots 18A, 19A, and 20A, and 21A, Highview Terrace subdivision, section 2, is hereby approved for recording purposes. Section 2, that the mayor and clerk of council are authorized to affix their signatures on the revised record plan. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith.
Yes, this, as you mentioned, was reviewed by the planning board and our engineer. The developer approached the city to move some of the lot lines for these 4 lots. For 18 and 19, it was just a very minor change. You can see it shaded here at the top and the bottom, so a very minor change there. But for 20 and 21, it was a more significant. This is the old lot line shaded there. This is the new lot line. This is just for his selling purposes. I think they have a buyer of one of these lots. They needed to adjust to fit the house that wanted to be on there, so.
And then the next lot over is like undeveloped, so
Yes,
that doesn't
yeah,
impact-
this is the end of section 2. Section 3 is what was approved by council when they revised the preliminary plan recently. So those lots have not officially been platted yet, so there's no action that needs to be taken, whatever that lot number is. At some point, it's gonna come back to you to be platted and officially platted and recorded, and then this will show this new lot line as opposed to the old lot line.
Any discussion of council on resolution 2016-W? If not, can we have a motion?
I move that we approve resolution number 2016-W.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to adopt Resolution 2016-W, a resolution approving the replat of lots 18, 19, 20, and 21 into lots 18A, 19A, 20A, and 21A, Highview Terrace subdivision, section 2, seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. Next on the agenda is resolution 2016-Y. Mr. Greenwood.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Resolution number 2016-X.
I'm sorry, 2016-X.
Yeah,
Ms.
that's what.
Middlestetter, sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Donna.
Resolution approving the replat of lots 35 and 36 into lots 35A and 36A, Shadowwood 2A subdivision. Whereas the Ohio Revised Code requires a replat for changes of lot lines or easements in a platted subdivision. And whereas the City of Bellbrook's consulting engineer and the Bellbrook Planning Board have recommended approval of a replat of lots 35 and 36 into lots 35A and 36A, Shadowwood 2A subdivision. And whereas the City of Bellbrook subdivision regulations stipulate that changes to a recorded plat shall be approved by action of the Bellbrook City Council. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves Section 1, that the replat of lots 35 and 36 into lots 35A and 36A, Shadowwood 2A subdivision, is hereby approved for recording purposes. Section 2, that the mayor and clerk of council are authorized to affix their signatures to the revised record plan. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith.
Yes, this replatting also went to the planning board last week, and they approved it. The city was approached by these two property owners with a desire to replat the lots. As you can see here, the old lot line is here, and it comes across and then comes down. So lot 35, what was 35, stretched all the way back here, and lot 36 was sort of cut off at this point. So there was an existing structure on 35A that was not constructed in the zoning permit where with the proper side yard setbacks. So by making this change and shifting this lot line over to here and extending it all the way back, I believe it was a shed, is now in compliance, and we've met the goals of both property owners for access to that rear lot. So there's no issues from our perspective. It was just something that two property owners wanted to do.
Okay.
Any discussion from council? If so, can we have a motion then?
I move that we adopt Resolution 2016-X.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mrs. Middlestetter to adopt Resolution 2016-X, a resolution approving the replat of lots 35 and 36 into lots 35A and 36A, Shadowwood 2A subdivision, seconded by Mr. Greenwood. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. And now resolution 2016-Y. Mr. Greenwood.
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Resolution number 2016-Y. A resolution directing the Greene County Auditor to enter the delinquent cost of weed and grass mowing on the tax duplicate for the properties attached hereunto. Whereas the City of Bellbrook, following all applicable procedures contained in the Bellbrook Municipal Code, caused overgrown grass and weeds to be cut, on properties located in the city of Bellbrook. And whereas Bellbrook Municipal Code, Section 678.03, Item B, authorizes the delinquent cost of such action to be certified to the Greene County Auditor to be entered upon the tax duplicate, and whereas the collection of such delinquent costs are in the best interest of the city and its citizens. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the costs that have been incurred for the mowing of grass and weeds that have not been paid by the property owners is $175. Section 2, that the costs incurred shall be entered on the tax duplicate for the properties attached hereunto. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be in force forthwith.
Yes, there is, fortunately, just a single property that we have had to mow, and they have not paid that. So that property is listed here. We did something a little different. We also did assessments in January of this year for all the things that happened at the end of last year. So that's why it's a little bit less, but really we haven't had to mow nearly as many properties this year as we've had in the past, and those that we've had have paid their bill. So there's only one other one out there right now, but they didn't meet the requirement. They have 30 days to pay their invoice. It was just mowed at the end of July, so we didn't have, the timing of it was not such. But if that is still unpaid, we'll assess that one in January like we did in the past. So this has worked well for us, and we get our money eventually.
Any discussion of council? If so, can we have a motion for resolution 2016-Y?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2016-Y.
Second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Greenwood to adopt Resolution 2016-Y, a resolution directing the Greene County Auditor to enter the delinquent cost of weed and grass mowing on the tax duplicate for the properties attached hereto. Seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. Next, resolution 2016-Z. Mrs. Sager Lawson.
Resolution number 2016-Z, a resolution directing the Greene County Auditor to enter the delinquent costs of unpaid water bills on the tax duplicate for the properties attached hereto. Whereas the City of Bellbrook, following all applicable procedures contained in the Bellbrook Municipal Code, invoice customers for providing water to properties located in the City of Bellbrook's water system area. And whereas Bellbrook Municipal Code, Section 1042.05 authorizes unpaid water bills to be certified by the Greene County Auditor to be entered upon the tax duplicate, and whereas the collection of such delinquent costs are in the best interest of the city and its citizens. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the costs that have been incurred for providing water that have not been paid by the property owners is $1,453.58. Section 2, that the costs incurred shall be entered on the tax duplicate for the properties attached hereto. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. This is similar to the grass cutting.
Yes, same type thing. These are just people who have not paid their water bill, and for whatever reason, a lot of them are shut off, but they're still delinquent. The property's still in their name, so we will assess it to their property taxes, and we will ultimately get paid. They're not continuing to get service now. The water's been shut off, so they're not continuing to get service and not racking up any additional bills. But this is our way to collect that money when their property taxes get paid.
Mark, what do we do if there is a property that's outside the city limits, even though they're on our water system, but they don't pay their bill?
No, there is one in here, the one at 1866 North Lakeland. We still have the ability. You can see by the parcel ID that begins with L32 instead of L35. L32 is Sugar Creek Township, L35 is the city of Bellbrook.
Okay.
So we still have the ability to assess to their property taxes because we're providing a service to them.
Okay.
So we still do that. The only time that sometimes we, and again with doing another round of assessments in January, it helps, but the only time that we can get caught with a bill that won't get paid is if somebody sells the property before we assess. If they move out, we're not going to assess the new property owner for something that happened before they purchased the property. So every once in a while we'll get one of those, but for the most part we're much better now at at catching those delinquents before they leave town.
How delinquent are they typically before we do this?
A lot of them have been shut off. It takes you at least probably about 60 days to get shut off from the time of the bill. And then some of them have had their meter removed too, which is another couple months after that. So they're usually at least 60 to 90 days overdue before we shut them off. And some of these are probably older than that. They're at least some from January, February, some from the last time we did assessments.
Mark, do we cross-reference this list at all with our list of registration of foreclosed upon properties or whatever? I remember we put that registration together at one point in time just to make sure we had everybody kind of accounted for.
Yes, we do. We send out all kinds of letters to what we believe may be abandoned properties. We find out some of them are not technically abandoned properties, but yes, we do cross-reference that and try to, we work well between the utility department and the property maintenance department to see who these owners are and what the status of those are.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, probably about the only way you could lose out would be like a quick sale or between two individuals or something like that. Because most of these repos, they go through the whole, to get a clean title, they have to clear all that up.
But sometimes it's not on the title. If they,
Oh, is that
they don't
right?
always contact us.
Okay,
Not all title agencies will contact us. So if it hasn't made it to the county as an assessment, then they don't know about it, and we've made the decision to not pursue.
yeah.
You
Okay.
know, most of them are less than $100, and at what point is it not worth pursuing
Right.
somebody? There have been a couple cases where it's happened that we have attempted to pursue somebody who's moved out of the area with little to no success, but it's pretty infrequent that we completely write off a delinquent payment.
Yeah.
Any further discussion of council? Do I have a motion for resolution 2016-Z?
I move that we approve resolution number 2016-Z.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to adopt Resolution 2016-Z, a resolution directing the Greene County Auditor to enter the delinquent cost of unpaid water bills on the tax duplicate for the properties attached hereto, seconded by Mr. Edwards. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. That brings us to the end of the 2016 alphabet. Now, the next resolution is 2016-AA. Mr. Edwards.
Resolution number 2016-AA, a resolution declaring specific equipment no longer needed by the city of Bellbrook as surplus property and authorizing the city manager to dispose of said surplus property. Whereas the city of Bellbrook desires to maintain adequate equipment to be used by its personnel, and whereas equipment no longer needed for use by city personnel may be declared as surplus property per Chapter 230 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code, now therefore the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the following equipment is hereby declared as surplus property. 2004 Ford Econoline van, vehicle identification number 1FBNE31L54HB37769. Section 2, that the city manager is hereby authorized and directed to dispose of said property in accordance with Chapter 230 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith.
Yes, this van was taken out of service earlier this year. It was replaced by a pickup truck with a cap on it that serves our purpose a little bit more. The van was acquired back in 2004 to transport our employees and volunteers to different trainings, things like that. That was not really a use that we needed anymore. So when we replaced this, we replaced it with a pickup truck. But this will be placed on gov deals. We've had very good luck with the other vehicles this year that we've placed on there, so I'm sure we'll get some decent bids for this van and sell it there.
Any further discussion on council? Ms. Stokes, we have a motion for resolution 2016-AA.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2016-AA.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Edwards to adopt Resolution 2016-AA, a resolution declaring specific equipment no longer needed by the city of Bellbrook as surplus property and authorizing the city manager to dispose of said surplus property, seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
yes,
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. Finally, the last four resolutions, Resolution 2016-BB, Mr. Greenwood.
Thank you. Resolution number 2016-BB, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District for security at home football games. Whereas the Bellbrook/Sugar Creek Local School District has requested that the Bellbrook Police Department provide police officers in an extra duty capacity at Bellbrook High School home football games. And whereas the school district agreed to compensate the city for this extra duty, and whereas the agreement will be effective for the 2016 home football season. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to execute the attached agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District. Section 2, that this resolution shall take effect and be in force forthwith. I guess that season's getting closer.
It's right around the corner. This is an agreement that we enter into every year for the upcoming football season. What this provides is 3 officers for 3 hours on the nights of home football games. Really, the only change this year is the amount that the school pays to the city was increased from $115 per officer per night to $120 per officer per night. Minor increase, but sort of keeps up with the change in the cost of doing business. The school district has reviewed this, and they are going to approve this at their school board meeting whenever their next meeting is, and we will continue this arrangement.
Any further discussion of council?
None.
We have a motion.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say, it's not like the city's making money on this, right?
N-
That just
No.
barely covers some of the costs, right?
It covers some of the costs. We don't make any money on it. It actually, but it's a service that I think fits in with what we need to be doing as a police department. So we're just trying to offset some of our costs, but it's certainly on the nights of home football games, it's the most important thing going on in the city of Bellbrook. So we need to have a presence there, and we don't take away patrol from the rest of the city by doing this. That's really what this does, is takes additional officers that would not normally be on duty and puts them at the football game, while we can still maintain the rest of the city patrol just as we normally would.
Okay. Anything else of council? We have a motion then regarding resolution 2016-BB.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-BB.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Greenwood to adopt Resolution 2016-BB, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District for security at home football games, seconded by Mr. Edwards. Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. That concludes the legislation for this evening. The next on the agenda is the city manager report.
Yes, first thing, the Lions Festival will be here before we know it. It begins on Thursday, August 18th from 6 to 11 p.m. Continues on Friday, August 19th from 6 to 11. And then Saturday, August 20th. The festival is from 5 to 11. The parade is at 4 o'clock. Several members of council will be walking in the parade. And then that evening, on Saturday, August 20th, they're going to have fireworks. Sort of the conclusion of the bicentennial celebration will be that Saturday, August 20th. So they're going to shoot them over by, from Sackett-Wright Park, over by the football field is where they'll actually be shooting. So you should be able to see them from behind the old Sugar Creek Elementary, where the festival is held. That's you'll be able to see them from there. So they have the Bicentennial Committee has been soliciting donations. They had to commit to a certain amount. I think it's going to be about an 18-minute show, which if you did that on July 4th, would cost you a lot more than if you're doing it on August 20th. So it works out well. Rosie's, who's well known for their fireworks, is the company that's putting it on. So I think it'll be a good show. It'll be a good conclusion to the celebration we've had this year. As I mentioned earlier, but I'm sure you probably have seen by now, the water tower has been repainted. Amazing how they did that and put that eagle up there and the Bellbrook. As I told the Chamber of Commerce lunch the other day, as good as it looks on the outside, really the important part was painting the inside. That's what matters to everyone's water, but everyone sees the outside. But they did a really good job of that. I think it really stands out, and the new logo looks great.
Good.
And to the right scale, and the eagle really turned out well too. So that is complete. And the annual paving program is complete. Most of that was done in Stephen Bell area. There was some done in the Green Meadow Ranch area too, some roads that need to be done. So that was completed well before school starts, and looks much better. And a couple streets in and around Stephen Bell were in pretty bad shape where the buses go through there. So that's all done, and we've got some more street striping to do, some painting for arrows and crosswalks and things like that. But we'll be getting that done certainly in the areas by the school before they start.
Mark, one of my neighbors, who happens to be a bus driver, asked if there's anything else they could do around the school to like reinforce it, to make it so that it doesn't wear and tear as quickly in the areas where around the schools.
Probably not much without completely tearing the street back up and rebuilding it.
Okay.
At this point, the street is what it is, and we put the asphalt overlay on, and that'll hold up for a time. But in those heavy traffic with buses and that, it really does tear it up. But there's not much unless you go all the way back down to the base again and sort of start over again. And that's a proposition that we can't afford, at least right now. That's a major commitment. But at some point, we are going to have to again. But there's not much else you can do, unfortunately. Included with your packet was an article that Councilmember Middlesetter asked me to provide about, I think it's Athens County, and going energy generation. I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to say on that, or if you had any additional thoughts.
Mainly, it was for your information, because these kinds of projects are springing up around the country in response to the clean air and climate change concerns and clean energy. And it just seemed to be a well thought out program, and different communities coming together to solve it. So it's in one of the newsletters that I read on community affairs across the country, and I thought it might be of interest to our folks here. I know we have a lot of people in the area who are behind the move to keep improving how we do things, especially in the energy area.
I'd just like to make a comment. I noticed at Wright Patterson, the large building they're building, they're using geothermal. I was really surprised when I seen that, because there hasn't been a lot of that done, but it's starting to pick up. So, and I'm glad to see it. It's that much less oil.
Right. There's certainly alternate sources that you can accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
So. Last two items I have. One, at the last meeting, we talked about our September 26th council meeting was going to conflict with the presidential debate at Wright State. Well, obviously that's not going to be a conflict anymore, so we had decided at that point to cancel that meeting because of that conflict. Do you want to continue to have that canceled, or do you want to put that back on the meeting schedule, so to speak?
Do you know, is the debate still that night?
I believe it is
Yeah.
still that night. It's
It's
just
just at Hofstra University, I
right,
think.
right. It's at a different location. So.
I would prefer we stay the course and keep the meeting canceled unless we have sufficient agenda items that we need to have the meeting.
I agree. That's fine. Yeah,
I'd
I
be
think at
available
this
to
point,
attend if we-
there's nothing that I've sort of planned around that, so we can continue that. If something comes up, we'll, just like
Okay.
any other time, we'll call a special meeting or put it back on the calendar.
Okay.
And then the last item I had was the council vacancy. Obviously, Mr. Martin is no longer on council. You'll take action here in a little bit on that. To accept that resignation officially. We did do the advertisement. We received 12 resumes for that vacant council position. And I guess at this point, the question to council is, how do you want to proceed with that process? We have the 12 people we can schedule, but I guess the options are to have a subset of council that would review the applicants or the resumes, and then maybe bring forward the ones that they think are appropriate, or you could have everyone on council interview the candidates. It's really up to you. Obviously, 12 is a significant number of candidates for that, but I think that certainly speaks to the community and the interest in filling that position.
Mark, there's a couple resumes of people that I know, and I don't want to unfairly advantage somebody, nor do I want to disadvantage them either. So I don't know how we keep that process like fair.
And I think we're going to have that, unfortunately, with this anyway. So, I mean, I think it's up to you if there's somebody that maybe if you're going to be involved in interviews that you don't want to participate in that one. But I think the key to this is having a consistent process, and potentially probably asking the same questions for each one, so it doesn't matter. We're not going to bias one person versus another because we're asking different questions or anything like that. So I don't know that there's necessarily a conflict of interest unless it was a spouse or a parent or a child or something like that. But I think within that list, everyone probably knows a couple people. I would hope.
At least.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Mike knows one.
That's right.
I had the opportunity to look through all of the resumes, and they're all very good candidates, and I'm kind of leaning toward having the full council interview all of them, just to be fair. I just didn't see any,
Yeah.
there's no obvious weed out
Right.
things
I
in
agree.
there, and I just think it would be better and fairer if, I mean, I know it's a lot of people and a lot of time, but if we could work it out to where they could be in front of, at least have the opportunity. If someone in council can't make it, then that's one thing, but I don't know what everyone else thinks, but.
I might propose that we would bring them in front of the entire council and maybe give them each 4 or 5 specific questions.
Yeah.
And let them all answer the exact same questions to council, and we can sit up here and we can listen. And maybe we won't do so much follow-up back and forth, or maybe each one of us would ask one question, something very limited, so we can move them through in a period of about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we can narrow it down to our top 3 or 4, whatever you think the number is.
And then go more
Then maybe we
depth.
could have a more in-depth interview
Yeah.
whereby we could have at least, maybe we allow ourselves each 2 questions or 3 questions, whatever we want to do. But I think when you get that many people, you're better off to start off with a very systematic approach, the same 3 or 4 questions, and we'll tell them when they're there. We're not going to try to give them ahead of time, and I want to hear, an epiphany on some of these things. But I mean, just give them 3 or 4 very standard questions, and then have them respond to those. Then maybe we could each ask one follow-up question, and that'll conclude the first interview, and then kind of ramble through that way. And
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had that number of applicants.
Right,
I
right.
remember actually, I don't even remember interviewing for
Well, and we're appointing this person for 3 years, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
3 years.
Over 3 years, yes.
If
Yeah.
I guess if it was a short amount of time, it wouldn't, not to say it wouldn't be important, but I mean,
No,
it's
it's a
worth
big seat.
taking the time.
Excuse me, is it 3 years or just until the next election?
No,
Or
it's
years?
His term.
It's the
It is
remainder of
the
his
full
term.
term,
Yeah.
okay.
And he
his
was-
term just started in January, didn't it?
January
Yes.
1st was
Yeah.
the beginning of his
Yeah,
4-year
so
term, so.
So it's a good 3 years.
I agree. I think the full council ought
Yeah.
to do the whole, because people deserve that. I mean, like you say, it's a long time period. And, it's that many applicants. I think it's be fair to everybody.
So if we did this over 2 nights, I don't, or do you- or
Yeah, you've got 12 people,
Maybe
Yeah.
split 6 and 6 or something.
Just, yeah.
I mean, you might, based on their availability, you might have to go 7, but, just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we can accommodate that. But I think if you give them a couple night options, that would give them.
I'd be in favor of either 6 and 6 or 4, 4 and 4, just kind of.
Yeah.
And then if council members can't attend those nights, then so be it, as long as we have enough people
Right.
here, and if you
as long as we have a quorum.
have a conflict that you don't want to miss the interview, then let us know. We'll make sure that we try to schedule accordingly. But I think if we have a little bit of flexibility on both sides, we should be able to
Okay.
accommodate.
I'm assuming council has 60 days to make the appointment.
Okay.
Starting from tonight.
Starting from
August 1.
August 1 was
Yeah.
the official day. And now with not having a meeting on September 26th,
Yeah.
you probably need to make the appointment at the September 12th, I think it is, meeting. So that's sort of and you can always have another special meeting, as we said,
Yeah.
if you want to do that.
I would prefer to have a special meeting. It's,
Well,
I mean,
I'm saying before, yeah, I'm just, to make an appointment,
Yeah.
you have to do that. So in the meantime, we'll have, there'll technically be special meetings that will go into executive session
Yeah.
to do the interviews. And we'll schedule those. We'll have Jamie send out an email tomorrow with some dates that might work. And then we can pick, 2 or 3 of those dates that the majority of council can at least attend. And then we can go to the candidates and find out, who can attend on what night. Tell them it's a, 15 to 20 minute, probably schedule them in half-hour increments even, just to give a transition time in between.
I'd like to do like 4 people a night, that way we're only limited to like 2 hours, and then maybe next week, I don't know, 2 nights next week and a night the following week or whatever, just to give some flexibility. And then maybe we will have to have a special meeting if we can't conclude by September the 12th, because we may be up against the holiday and all that at the end, so.
Yeah, and we could do a special meeting.
Yeah.
I
that's
was thinking
Yeah.
if you had
To
it
do
done
this
before the end,
appointment.
maybe around the end of the month or something like that,
Yeah.
it'd be, everybody'd be happy to get it over with.
Yeah.
Not to get it over with, but, a lot of people would be anticipating, the outcome and everything.
Well, and really, if you can do all the interviews and if you can come to the point that you know who you're going to recommend for appointment, then that's all you need to have for the September 12th meeting is,
Yeah.
that's when the appointment will take place, could take place if you're done by then, and if not, you could do it at a special meeting after that if you're not
Okay.
concluded with the process by then. So you have 60 days, so you have basically up till the end of September. It's just with the meeting schedule without a special meeting, but we'll get out an email so that.
Maybe 2 days next week and 1 day the week following, in case someone's on vacation or something like
Right,
that, or
we can
whatever.
give them the
I think
option.
everybody here,
Sounds
we should have a fair number of people to attend. And council, we can't make it, we might have a couple people missing one evening or something like that, but we'll just have to forge ahead.
And then in terms of the questions, I guess if anyone has, 3 or 4 questions, if you have some questions that you think could be asked, if you want to send those to either myself or Jamie, we can sort of come up with that list and then get it back to you so you can review it. So that's all set before those
Good.
interviews begin.
That makes sense.
And I think if we do 3 standard questions, then we can kind of have everybody on the
Yeah.
same basis.
Right.
And then from there, we can maybe each poke at something different or whatever, and then kind of cut it at that point. Okay.
That's good. I like that.
Okay, we will send something out tomorrow and look for that, and if we get a response back, then we can begin that scheduling process as soon as possible to get people on the schedule, get them as much notice as we can.
Yeah.
So they can fit it into their plan also.
Keep Jamie busy for a couple days.
That's right.
She needs something to do. That is all I have this evening.
Mark, out of curiosity, any feedback on the water tower from anybody? I thought the Eagle's fantastic looking, to be honest. I thought they did a tremendous job, but even the Bellbrook side looks equally impressive.
All positive feedback.
yeah.
I did hear one comment. The eagle is what was provided to us by the school. Somebody questioned why the black was in there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's the logo that they use, and it's outlined in purple. I was actually out of town, so I got it sort of time lapse in pictures from Dale Wilson. But
Mhm.
it's just amazing how they can do that with all that. There's 7 different colors in that eagle, and to know from when you're up, 200 plus feet in the air, and you're right up against that tower to know which goes where. And they roll, even the white paint. I don't know if you saw it in between. The base coats they did 3 coats.
It's like blue and then kind of a
the
pinkish
blue-
color and then the white.
Yeah, and they do that so they know they don't miss anything. So the base coats are slightly different tinted so that they know, because they rolled that entire outside of that thing, which
Wow.
hard to believe.
I heard nothing but positive stuff about it, and a couple friends said, when the Eagle was going up, oh, what is that? What's that gonna be? And thought it was pretty amazing that you could actually make it look that good
That
from
good.
that far up. Yeah.
And we had to make some decisions on the size, because when we saw a rendering of what it is now, it really looked too big, and we were gonna shrink it down, but the contractor said, you don't wanna do that. This is the size, and this is what he does for a living, so he knows that, and he led us the right way. We were extremely pleased with how that turned out, so. And now that tank is back operational again, so especially given the amount of water we're going through right now, that's good to have it back. The contractor finished well ahead of schedule. The deadline would have been the end of this week to be done, and they were done last week. So
Wonderful.
that project went as well as could be expected.
Good.
Get up there and see it.
Any further questions of the city manager?
None.
Thanks, Mark. Next, committee reports, starting off with service.
No official report tonight, just paving in my neighborhood is wonderful. It's very smooth, very nice job, and went off without a hitch, I think. I think they started doing some stuff preliminary. I think the signs were up that said they were gonna start on Saturday or something like that, and then there was some preliminary work done on Friday. And I started to worry that people were gonna start complaining because they didn't move their cars and blah, blah, blah. But it all worked out.
Yeah, they came ahead and did the milling first, and they did that on Friday, just to get that done, and then they came back with the paving, because we didn't mill the entire area, so they just milled the areas that needed to be done, so. They're
very nice.
usually pretty good. They were, obviously this year, they're not behind because of weather or anything like that. They haven't had many rain days, so.
They were out there during some hot days.
Yes,
Very
yeah,
hot days.
yeah.
Yep.
And because of the cost, we were able to actually add the Green Meadow Ranch, North Sheffield, and East Sudbury were added when we weren't planning to be able to do those this year, but they were added and still stay within our budget, so.
Great, awesome.
Yeah, you put signs up on West Sudbury and got everyone on my street all excited that
Oh.
we're gonna get paved. But I guess the contractor put up the no parking sign, so
Probably.
everyone was asking me questions. I said, I don't really think that we're due, but
Nope,
it was just an error. So anyway,
just a little
maybe next
tease.
year.
Yeah.
That's all I have for service.
Okay, safety committee.
Yeah, I just got a few notes. Police training. I spoke with Mary Davis, State of Ohio Police Training Coordinator, and I called to find out training requirements, if there's going to be any more for 2017. And unofficially, they haven't really passed the bill yet, but unofficially, the state's going to require 20 hours versus 11 hours like this year. So 2017 would be 20 hours. And that's a fairly good jump. The problem that the small police departments such as ours run into is sometimes you have to pay overtime for those officers to attend classes. And all these classes have to be approved by the state. And they come out with their own classes. Like our police chief, he could come up with ideas and do some of their training and submit it. And if it's approved, then you can do that. So the training coordinator, they're aware of this, the police department's running into this overtime situation. So one of the things that she indicated was possible computer training, like in the office, like if you were on duty and you had some spare time, possibly working on a terminal doing training. And for all this training, I don't quote me, I think she was explaining it was $20 an hour is what we get reimbursed. So if you had a chance to do your training at a computer terminal, then we'd actually make $20 an hour. But and sometimes that type of training, I think we've all probably experienced some of that. Some of it's not very good. And Chief Daugherty, I spoke with him, and I just want to get an idea of, what's going on in the background. And I spoke with him about this training. And he expressed that any training that we do, we want to make sure it's good training for, we just don't want to do something that's going to fill a square, so to speak. So he's working on it, and he's doing a good job. And I just wanted people to know that it's just one of those things that kind of tear at the budget when you have to, these things crop up from the state where, you really don't plan on it. And like I say, it's officially hasn't been put out. They don't do it until like November. And we're in our budget process coming up here next month. So I just wanted to, what I found out, let everybody know. But Chief's doing a great job on that. And I did have a little piece for the fire department. We bought a piece of equipment, I think it was last year. The auto pulse resuscitation takes the place of CPR, where your chest pulsations. I don't know if anybody's ever taken that class where you use a dummy. 2 or 3 minutes of that stuff, you're kind of feeling it. It gets kind of tough. Well, this takes the place of that. And I talked to one of the personnel we have, and it's been in use a couple times. It's been used, so that's money well spent. And one of the nice things about it is, you know, of course, with that kind of situation, one of the most serious situations with your heart, at the same time, your emergency personnel are trying to wheel somebody from one point to another. Sometimes you have stairwells, turning corners, and you're on the move. And somebody trying to physically do that while you're going through all these scenarios. This piece of equipment you attach, and you just do whatever you need to do to get where you need to. So it's just let people know that, you know, it seems like we spend a lot of money, but it's well worth. They had a good outcome on this one.
And in that case, 75% of the cost, we have 2 of those units, one in each of the frontline medics. 75% was reimbursed by the Bureau of Workers' Comp, because obviously what you just described is a place where a lot of people get injured, a lot of employees get injured doing those things, because it is hard work, and if they're,
Yeah.
you know, trying to move and those other things. So we were able to get those for only 25% of our own money. But yes, I know they've been used in a couple instances, and they really help.
And, you know, Bellbrook, I'd probably be safe to say we're a little bit older crowd. We have a lot of older crowd, a little more medical. You know, I know they do a lot of runs. You know, that's just what happens. So that's all I have.
All right, Forrest, thanks, a good report. I'll cover finance and audit this evening. We have nothing to report. And next is community affairs.
Yes, just reemphasizing Mr. Shagek's comments on the Lions Club Parade. That is the wrap-up of the bicentennial celebration. An event on Tuesday of that same week is another final episode of the lecture series that is sponsored by our own Bellbrook Library or Museum. It's called Drones in Dayton, so it's from the current time into the next 50 years. It will be on Tuesday, the 16th. It will be held at the Bellbrook United Methodist Church Community Room at 7 o'clock, and the community is invited. We've had 4 so far, and they have been extremely good presentations on different aspects of a 50-year segment of history. So I would like to reemphasize that. All the details are on the bicentennial website, bellbrook200.com, so I would invite folks to check that out.
Thank you, Elaine. Does anyone have any old business to come before this council this evening?
Nothing.
No.
We do have a couple of items on new business. I presume we need a motion for both acceptances?
Yes,
or-
this is just sort of the formal acceptance of the resignation of these 2 individuals.
First item is to accept the resignation of Councilmember John Martin effective July 31, 2016. Could I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept regretfully John Martin's resignation.
Get a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Middlestetter to accept the resignation of John Martin from council effective 7/31/16, seconded by Mr. Edwards. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. The next item is to accept the resignation of Brady Harding, Village Review Board, effective also July 31, 2016.
Did we just appoint him?
We appointed him as architect advisor, so it's a separate position, that's why, so he's officially resigning his role as a member, but now he is the city architect advisor for that board.
Okay. Makes sense, thanks.
Could I have a motion?
I move that we accept the resignation of Brady Harding.
A second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to accept the resignation of Brady Harding from the Village Review Board effective 7/31/16, seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Yes. Next item is open discussion. We can start with Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I had the opportunity last Tuesday to attend National Night Out at our police department. I think this is the first year that maybe we've participated in that.
First year in a while.
First year in a while.
We did it before, but it's first year in a while.
For those people in the community that don't know what that is, it's a nationwide community outreach with police departments all over the country. I think we had pretty good turnout. They had food and drinks, and you got to interact with the officers, and they had one of our SUV police units there to go through. It was a good evening. It's nice that they're doing that. It's nice to talk to police officers in a non-life-threatening or stressful situation. I think we should continue doing it if we can.
Good.
I agree with Mr. Edwards. I went there, it was kind of a hit. A lot of people spoke with the officers. We had a lot of kids there, and they got to go through the police vehicle. We actually had a football team show up, Pee Wee football team, and that was fun. But yes, I think we ought to participate that maybe every year. I mean, it's a good thing for the community to see them meet and greet their police officers.
Yeah, that's something that Chief Doherty has reintroduced.
Yeah.
I think it had been done before, maybe not quite in the same manner. I think there was more in the neighborhoods than that, but I think this was a good way to do it. Bring people here, give them the opportunity to see the equipment, take a tour of the facility if they wanted, have a hot dog if they wanted. But it was a good way, and we had a very good turnout. Very happy with what it ended up being.
And that's only part of what the chief's doing. I mean, we read the police report every week that we get from you, and, we're doing foot patrols now, we're doing bike patrols. So, I think it's important that our police officers are visible for two reasons, to stop crime or to prevent crime, but also to show that they're out there to serve, and they're people like the rest of us, and like good interaction.
Those have been very popular because when you're not in a vehicle, you can stop and talk to somebody, and it may not be a crime that they're going to report, but it may just be something that they have a concern about, and they'll tell you about something that's going on in their neighborhood, and something maybe they saw, or something that they want you to be aware of, and we've had a lot of information. Bike patrol, we find a lot of open garage doors, unlocked businesses, things like that you can't get if you're not out of the vehicle. So both of those have been very successful this year.
Very proactive, and
Yes.
people like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with the bike patrol. A lot of times there's reports in the wee hours of the morning, so they're out there day and night on the bicycles, not just daylight hours. They're out there early morning and late at night, and I think
Yeah.
that's pretty effective policing.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, the National Night Out, the hamburgers and hot dogs are good, so.
Sorry, I missed that. I don't have anything else.
Okay.
I was out of town this weekend, but did we race in the bike and the big wheel race? Did we have anybody in that?
Not that I, not,
No.
no, not.
Unless
not
someone
I
here
wasn't
did
able
it.
to go. So.
What's that?
No,
The big wheel race
The big
that-
wheel race up at Cable's Mill.
Cable's Mill was this past weekend. I didn't know if we had a
No, and it,
city representative.
no, no one,
I think I was supposed to be part of it. I never got a call or,
yeah, I think we talked about it at that joint meeting.
I just remember the big wheel that we had here last year. So
Yeah.
Right, but the officer who created that actually not works at Sugar Creek.
Yeah.
And he brought his big wheel over there.
Yeah, well, but then I don't think they had an interest in doing that again, so it may be an occasional thing, but not an annual thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like it may have
Personal
overlapped
interest or
with
something.
the night out. It may have, the preparation for it might have.
Yeah, there's a
gotten
lot of different things. There, I know the vehicle that was created last year spent a lot of his own personal time creating that tricycle. But no,
Yeah,
I
he took it
don't
with
believe
him, too.
anyone participated.
Or was it city property?
I don't know if it might. I don't know if it's still here. If he took it with him, so I know we threatened to keep it, but I don't know if we actually did or not.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, I have nothing for this evening. Would anybody in the viewing audience like to step forward and address the council on any matter? We have voice count. You're welcome to come up and introduce yourself and tell us why you're here, then you can be on TV. And get a city pin. Congratulations, thanks for attending. If you want to step before the podium, you can give us your name and your troop number and tell us why you're here.
My name's Jared Ducro, and I'm here to get 2 merit badges, communications, and citizenship in the community. I am from Troop 375.
Thank you very much, glad to have you. Does anyone else want to address the council tonight?
Harold McGill, 3846 West Franklin Street. Two quick items. One, thank you for helping out with the paving at Green Meadow Ranch, because that Sudbury Court area was really, really in a terrible, terrible condition. So I know the residents appreciated that. And I echo the comments of Councilman Edwards and Greenwood about the National Night Out. I attended that as well. Well attended by the community, a chance for, individuals, families to interact with police in a non-threatening, manner. And they just had a really good time out there doing what they needed to do. And I know before the police do the community walks and that they have, identified here for the city. But I think this was where it's centrally located, where they had it out front. I mean, just people who would stop by and, kind of jump in and enjoy themselves while the night was young there. And that's so I think Chief Doherty, Lieutenant Carmen, and the rest of the force, he really needs a good hand on that because they did a good job with it.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to address council tonight?
Yes, please.
We ask that you state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Shannon Hollingsworth, 2191 Shadowwood Circle. My husband and I chose Bellbrook 14 years ago, just recently moved to Shadowwood Circle. Explicitly chose to stay in Bellbrook. We have our youngest child still at home. She'll be starting her freshman year at the high school this fall, and we've been happy with the school district. She's been active and happy. I just left, as a matter of fact, the soccer scrimmage, the first soccer scrimmage at Miami Valley South Stadium. We're all very excited for the next 4 years. A little bit of bittersweetness for my husband and I because the youngest child is now in high school, but we're very happy to be in Bellbrook. We've been happy ever since we moved. It was a destination of choice. We both grew up in the Dayton area, good reputations with the schools, with the police department, and the community. No complaints. We're very happy. I was surprised this morning to learn that the Turner family has moved to Sugar Creek Township. I understand it's not a recent move, it's just recent information to me. So I've done as much research as I could in one day, learning that Bellbrook Council would meet tonight. And I wanted to speak to you urgently because the Turner family is the father and mother of Brock Turner, one of the most hated men right now in the country because of what he's been convicted of. He's a convicted rapist with an unapologetic family. I spoke with Officer Davis from the Bellbrook Police Department today to see what action has been taken and what action could be taken. I understand his family has moved into Cable's Mill, which from the stadium this afternoon you can see the rooftops of the houses. I don't know how far it is from their house to the school, but in my conversation with Officer Davis, he explained that the high school and Cable's Mill is in Sugar Creek Township. The line then between where the bus lot is divides Sugar Creek Township from Bellbrook, meaning the stadium is in the city of Bellbrook. So I understand Ohio state law states that no person who has been convicted of has pleaded guilty to or pleads guilty to a sexually oriented offense or a child victim oriented offense shall establish a residence or occupy residential premises within 1,000 feet of any school premises. Again, in my conversation with Officer Davis, he explained that Bellbrook has an ordinance of 500 feet. However, we couldn't measure from the school to his house because it's Sugar Creek Township. But learning that the stadium, where our children do congregate and do spend a lot of time, is within Bellbrook jurisdiction. My request tonight, if it hasn't been done already, I'd like to learn, number one, if it has been done. If it hasn't been done, I would like to request that the city of Bellbrook take a measurement from the point of the stadium that is closest to Cable's Mill to the Turner's new residence, because if it's within 500 feet, Brock Turner cannot be released to his family. He has already been given a sentence that is disgusting to me and disgusting to many in this country. It's a national story. I'm sure you've read it. If you haven't, I encourage you to read not only the journalist coverage, but also his parents' letters to the judge. They take no responsibility and they don't believe their son has done anything wrong. That type of behavior concerns me if he were to be released to his parents, that our children would be in danger because what he's done is wrong. He's been convicted and he gets nothing but support and enablement from his parents. So even if he were to be released to his parents in Cable's Mill, our children are in the stadium right there. So I would like to request a measurement be taken. I'd like to, from the house to the stadium in Bellbrook. Officer Davis also explained, and I was very happy to hear, that the city of Bellbrook very recently learned of a sexual predator who moved very close to where an alternative type school is being held in the old Sugar Creek School building. And when they took the measurement, the sexual predator was found to be at 498 feet, and he was forced to move. And I'm so glad to hear that we take it seriously. I'm so glad to hear Resolution 2016 BB for extra security for our children. If we take all these extra measures, we have to see that Brock Turner's presence that close to our high school is another risk that we can't afford to take. We cannot put our children, my daughter, our girls, in danger of someone who believes that he's done no wrong, even after being convicted of what he's been convicted of. I'm not sure if this is the way to make the request for the measurement. This was my starting point. I also plan to attend the Sugar Creek Township, the next meeting. If this measurement doesn't work out and it's beyond the 500 feet, I'm taking every step I can as a mother and as a citizen of Bellbrook that this man does not get released to our community, does not get released to his parents, who just right in front of our eyes have moved to Cable's Mill, a great community, close to the schools and wonderful, but not for this man, not for Brock Turner to come home to them. They have not shown that they can be responsible in taking care of their son to rehabilitate or address any of his issues because they don't believe he has issues. So my question is, can I request a measurement in this venue? If not, what is the process for me to do that as a first step?
No, I will be in touch with the chief of police in the morning. We'll have to obviously determine where their residence is, and then we can begin that process. I know Sugar Creek Township Police are on top of this. There have been protests in front of that residence a couple different times, so they're very aware of that. And I know I just read last week the same thing, that they were going to potentially allow him to be released to Ohio instead of having to stay in California. So I will check with the chief of police, and then we will be in touch with you and let you know what we find out.
I appreciate the urgent action. September 2nd, 2nd or 3rd, I believe it's the 2nd, is his release date. So unfortunately, I learned just today that his parents are here in Bellbrook, but there are no coincidences, and council meets tonight. So I had an opportunity same day to speak with you. I have his address, if you do
Yeah,
need
if
the
you have
address.
that, yes.
1242 Ravel Court. Yeah, an urgent action. I appreciate you talking to him in the morning, and once the measurement is taken, how can I expect to learn the information or the results?
I'll get your contact information here, and we'll contact you and let you know what it is.
Okay, that sounds good. Depending on the results of the measurement, I have further requests, but not knowing, if they're within the 500 feet, it may or may not be relevant. But I would.
We'll do the measurement, and we'll
touch.
find out what our remedies are at that point in time, because I'm sure we're gonna be a little bit limited as what we can do, but we'll
Yeah,
at
we-
least explore the options.
Right, and
understand
a lot
what
of
they are.
time I'm assuming he'll be released to the probation department or something in Greene County that handles that. In the other situation you cited, they worked very closely with us to make sure they understood what our laws were and they understood what the limitations were. So it's not just us that will be involved in this, but if we have that information, we will certainly share that with everyone who needs it.
Sure. I have family and friends who are willing to be very vocal, even up to the California jurisdiction or judicial system. Once we get these measurements, that he not be released back. So it won't just. There is citizen action, and you should know there is citizen action to communicate with as many people to make sure that this doesn't happen and that the issue doesn't come here. So prevention is our first goal. If that doesn't work, then we organize and come up with another plan. But there are parents, friends, family, even people who are not parents in the city of Bellbrook who have been looking to move to the city of Bellbrook are willing to participate in any type of action so he's not released to his parents.
Ma'am, I was involved a little bit with the last one you spoke of. the other section of the city. That was found out on Facebook that this person was moving to Bellbrook. And the way that works is the sheriff's department has an officer that handles those cases. And the person has to register with the sheriff. And then from that point, you know, they look at the map and look at all the restrictions on the space they're supposed to live. And what had happened down here at the school was there's 4 classrooms that's run by Greene County ESC. Their address is Yellow Springs. So the map the sheriff showed didn't show this school classrooms where they thought everything was in, you know, well, they didn't even realize, they thought the school was closed. So I explained to them, you know, there's 4 classrooms, they didn't realize it, and that's how that got resolved.
That's how he got here in the first place.
I mean, but they hadn't even sent the letters out yet because the people got involved and got, you know, was questioning, and then I got involved, and I got with city manager and everybody and the police chief, and then they resolved that problem, and he had to move. But one of the things, I'm not trying to protect these creeps, but you got to be careful. If it's somebody that has served their time, you got to be careful of harassing them. So whatever that may be, as far as, you know, I don't know how far you can go, but you know, that's just something to be careful of. You'll probably see that statement.
We're very careful. My group is very careful not to. Bellbrook is a great place because we don't have that here. I know there are other groups who I've seen on Facebook. Some of the posts are pretty vile. I admire the intent of those groups. I also want to keep this person from moving here. I don't agree with how they're doing it and what they're saying. So I appreciate the comment, and I want you to know too that we'll work within the bounds of the law and not go to the point of harassment, but go to the point where people know that we won't stand for it. We won't just sit and be quiet about it. We won't sit and watch it happen. We do everything we can within the law. Talk to as many people as we can in Ohio and California. It doesn't matter to us. Our children are more important than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're interested in upholding the fine reputation that we have here in Bellbrook while we do this.
Yes. And you know, the thing of it is, keeping an eye on that situation is good, and everybody knows, and it's always there. But there, on the other hand, you got to be careful of the ones that's not known. That's everywhere. You know, you still have to kind of keep an eye, and don't let your children get in some situations of, you know,
Right.
where they can get into that problem in the first place, because you never know what's out there.
And
Even though
educating our
it is a
children, too,
great
is
community.
important. If our children know and can be aware,
Yeah.
that's important too, for them to be not necessarily paranoid or scared,
Right.
but for them to know what they have to protect themselves against.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much, and
Thank
rest
you.
assured, I'll speak for the city that we take these matters very seriously, and we will pursue and do whatever we can do to make sure that we can ensure the safety of our citizens. But thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any matters to bring before this council this evening? That being the case, I'd like to thank those in our audience watching the meeting tonight. We had about 100% participation, which is an all-time high rate for us. I'd like to also thank the viewing audience at home and also the cameraman, Louis Schatzberger. If no one else has anything else, I will go ahead and declare this meeting to be adjourned.